I always love when I meet like-minded individuals, and Carissa Karban is absolutely no exception. Join us this week as we sit down and have a conversation about how moving through the corporate world in a non-female energy focused way moved both of us in the direction of alignment and purpose. This episode is all about working in a heart-forward way, and I'd love for you to join our conversation. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are. I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so excited to be joined by Carissa Karban today. Welcome to the show, Carissa.
Thanks, Adrienne. Excited to be here.
So Carissa and I had a couple of amazing conversations, one just before this call and when she called for screening. And I was like, I absolutely have to have this person on my show. We have so many energetic beliefs that are aligned with one another. So share with our audience who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. These intros are always difficult, right? It's like, what's the nutshell version of me and how do I fit into 3 sentences or less? But yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I've been on such a profound journey of really healing my relationship with the feminine. So I know that was something that you and I really connected on. I come from a very corporate masculine background and was embodying that energy for quite a long time. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I even started tuning into my cycle and understanding, oh, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't always be on 100% all of the time. And so it's been a really beautiful sort of unraveling as I've deconstructed, looked at the different beliefs and the conditioning that made me believe I needed to be a certain way or do certain things in order to really be worthy or valuable. So as I've been deconstructing that and really healing this relationship with my feminine, it's been transformative and eye-opening, and it has changed everything. So I'm really excited to be here and have this conversation today.
Awesome. So I am sure that as you guys listen to this little intro, you're like, oh, this is why Adrienne has this beautiful human on her show. So you started in the corporate grind.
Yes, I have a background in engineering. Started as a network engineer, so like very hardcore corporate, worked at a big networking giant for about 10 years.
Oh, wow. That sounds a lot like my beginnings too. I started in the corporate world. I did work in nonprofits, which you'd think would be a little softer pace, but it's actually not. I worked in for-profit and nonprofit marketing and public relations for a while. So, I mean, we see how fast the news circuit moves these days. So it's a pretty high demand, high stress job. And I don't know about you, but I was probably the sickest of my entire life. And I say that and I laugh because I look back at it and I go, what the hell was I thinking? But when I was younger, I was just trying to prove my worth and work hard. And I thought that I had to work hard in order to prove my worth. Did you feel the same way? I see you nodding.
Oh my gosh, so much. I think it was really interesting. I was raised by a single parent, and my mom, I noticed her kind of always struggling to make ends meet. We didn't have a lot as I was growing up. She absolutely did the best that she could, and I'm incredibly grateful for everything she did. But I noticed her usually having like 2 jobs at a time and just always working. And very early on, I really internalized this conditioning of kind of the quote unquote right way to do things. And so as I went through high school and into college, I was like, okay, I need to check all these boxes, right? That this is my guaranteed path to success, to happiness, to fulfillment. And so as I was looking around at the culture and the conditioning and kind of the water we were swimming in, it was really this idea that I am what I do. And my value, my worth comes from how much I'm achieving. I mean, you think about it, most of the time, Adrienne, when you go to an event, the first thing people ask is like, oh, what do you do? Right? We're always asking, like, what do you do as your job? And it's really a way that we tend to define ourselves and we can really identify strongly with our jobs. And so yeah, I really kind of fell into that hamster wheel of doing and always trying to climb that ladder to hustle for worthiness for sure.
Oh, I resonate with that so deeply. I also grew up in a French Catholic family, so like that whole working hard being part of your identity, your cultural identity was so strong and so ingrained in me that I literally laid it all on the line and like sacrificed everything in order to try and progress. And I mean, I did well. I became a director at 26 and was also diagnosed with celiac disease, and I had endometriosis. And so, like, I was struggling with my cycle. I was struggling with migraines. I was struggling with so many things. And it's part of why I do what I do now, because I look back at it and I go, what was that all for? I lost the best years of my life trying to what? Please other people and keep up with the Joneses, and for what? I grew up with the same kind of, watching parents juggle long hours. My mom had a couple of jobs. Like it, I very much resonate with where you came from as well. And I had that same kind of feeling like oh, I've got to do more, do better, work hard, and it was literally killing me.
I love, Adrienne, that you brought that up, this idea that you were doing it well, right? You were being rewarded. And I think that makes it so much harder to sort of check out of that rat race because, yeah, I was academically, I did really well. I was achieving, I was getting the accolades, right? And so I kind of bought into this idea of like, okay, the next achievement, I'll feel worthy or I'll feel accomplished or I'll feel valuable, whatever it is. And it's always that carrot that was dangling just out of reach.
Mm-hmm.
But I really was plugged into that idea that if I just try a little harder, if I work a little more, at some point I'll feel happy, I'll feel successful. And yeah, I burned out, very similar. I gained weight, really was not healthy, didn't feel good in my body. And, we tend to glorify this idea of like, oh, retirement, right? That's when we get to do all of the things that we want to do. And, I was talking to someone recently and it's so interesting how not only are we not guaranteed, right, any sort of time, but also it's like if we work in this sedentary lifestyle and we're at the computer, I have chronic neck pain, I have issues with my back, I have all kinds of chronic pain that I'm still unlearning and healing through. But it's like if we work in this like hunched corporate, at a computer all of the time, by the time we retire, we don't have the physical ability to enjoy life at that point. And so we're delaying and delaying for what?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I saw something not that long ago that the sedentary work lifestyle is creeping up there in terms of, right alongside cardiovascular disease and
Yep.
other things that kill people.
Yep.
And I got to a point where, for me, the catalyst was I had multiple miscarriages and my cycle was crazy. And I had a child who was acting out. My older two, I adopted. I have one biologically that's 13 at the time of this recording. And like one of my older kids was starting to like act out because I wasn't as present as they wanted me to be. And so it was like between what was going on with my body and what was going on at home, I'm like, what am I doing this for? And my husband was like, you know what? Just come home, Adrienne. Just come home. We'll figure it out. Just come home. I believe in you. I've always believed that you should do your own thing anyway. Just come home. And I'm so grateful that he supported that transition because it was abrupt. I just like presented to upper management, like, this currently is not working for me. I am working 70 hours a week. Here's how what I've done has brought in exponentially more revenue in terms of what we're looking at in our budget. If we bring on another person, here's how it could look. Like, I provided a solution to my problem and just complaining about my problem. I was told I wasn't working hard enough. And I hit a wall. And my husband, I talked to him at the end of that day, and he was like, how did your presentation go? And I just started to bawl. And he was like, Adrienne, just come home. And I'm so grateful that I did that, because that whole first 6 months, I felt like I was detoxing because that on-go was so ingrained in me. I was like restless and anxious, almost like a tech detox. It was awful. I never expected to face that. And then once I got through kind of that initial detox period, I was like, wow, I have a lot of gifts in different phases of my cycle. I'm better at things here, or I'm better at this here. And I started just as simple as replanning my workday around the phases and gifts of my cycle. And I couldn't believe how things shifted just with that small change.
Wow. That's so incredible. First, I just want to say I'm so sorry for your losses. That is such a hard experience to go through, especially when in that hustle culture, you don't even have time to grieve properly or to be with yourself and to allow for the passing of those little baby loves. So I'm so sorry. And so grateful that you have a partner who was so supportive. I was not in a similar situation. I was working for big corporate. This was a few years ago at this point, but had been trying for about a year. Very similar situation to you, where I was burning out in my role, offering the solution of, here's why we need more people. Here's what would be possible. And constantly was just told like, oh, we don't have the budget. We can't do it for these reasons or those reasons, while also watching, right, as the executives are going off on like yachts and big fancy vacations and, all of these things on the company dime. So the juxtaposition of that was really telling. But my partner at the time, he really did not understand why I wanted to get out of the corporate grind. He was in corporate, but his position was a little bit easier, so he didn't need to invest quite as much time. And for him, he also didn't need to find purpose in his work. That was another big part of it for me. I'm not really wired to just check the boxes and just collect the paycheck, right? Like, I really want to be invested. I want to know I'm having a positive impact. I'm building community, relationships, all of these things. And so I was investing so much of myself, but kind of had the opposite message. Every time I thought I want to go do something else, I was met with a lot of resistance and a lot of resentment. And he was saying, why can't you just be more like me, basically? And I really felt a lack of empathy from him in understanding what I needed in terms of the meaning and the purpose, but then also, to your point, understanding what it means to flow with my cycle rather than resist against it. And this idea of being constantly on and just in this constant mode of productivity, because then I would just constantly get burned out, and I just wasn't enjoying myself. And even though I tried to make the case to him, hey, I'm going to be more enjoyable to be around, right? As a person, as a partner, if I am not feeling completely drained and having to use all weekend to just recover, just to get back up on the horse and do it again on Monday. So that was really hard. And I think that definitely plays into the masculine feminine dynamics, especially in a relationship, right? The dance that we do, and having that safe masculine container for you to say, okay, I'm going to come home. I'm going to soften. I'm going to surrender into this and really prioritize your physical and energetic and emotional recovery. It's so, so beautiful that you had a partner to support you in that.
I'm really grateful. I know how lucky I am. I also have been in a serious relationship situation where that kind of empathy and being able to meet me in that space was not possible. And I held all of the energy, masculine and feminine, for the entire relationship.
Yes, exactly.
And I love what you said about it would take me all weekend to recover to get back on the horse again. Oh, I felt that sentence so deeply. It would take me all weekend to just rally and be like, okay. And I would dread Mondays. And I hated that I felt that way because I had never dreaded things in my life until I was at that brink of burnout when I'm like, just how the heck am I going to get through the next day, the next week? How am I going to continue this pace? And I resonate with what you said too about like, I feel like I have to do something with purpose. I could grind all the time if I feel like I'm doing something meaningful in the world. I mean, this hence the Reproductive Rebel podcast and Moon Essence and everything that I do in my practice. Like, I just really wanted to be able to have the fruits of my energy be able to give back to others. So, where did you reach that burnout point? Did you have like that penultimate moment where you're like, I just can't do this?
Several of them to varying degrees. You know, I think something that was really hard for me that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to is also I've had a deep contemplative practice. I've been on this like introspective healing journey for awareness on top of it, where I was like, okay, I'm dreading this. I have the Sunday scaries, but I know better, right? I know that it's up to me to create my reality. I know that this is mindset related. I know this is all about my perspective. And I just really struggled within that because in addition to having the constraints of my environment or my situation, I then had sort of the internal dialogue going on of, you know better. If you were stronger, if you were more powerful, you know, you would be able to blast this position out of the way and create exactly what you want. And so it was really interesting. The way I've come to think about it is, you know, we talk a lot about the butterfly, right? And how the caterpillar needs to descend into this like existential goo in the chrysalis. And there's a lot of trusting the process. And we talk about that in order to emerge as a butterfly. But the part that I think is really interesting that we don't talk about as much is the act of breaking free from the chrysalis. You know, if you ever see a butterfly acting to break out of the chrysalis, you know, you might want to help the butterfly. Oh, let me help you, little buddy. But that can actually hurt the butterfly because the butterfly actually needs the struggle to break free of that chrysalis in order to build the strength of its wings. And I think about that a lot because I think that the chrysalis of corporate was really keeping me cocooned in. And even as I grew in my awareness, I grew in that discomfort of feeling like this is not aligned, this is not where I want to be, I can't do this anymore. It was really having the strength, the courage, and I would say the self-trust to break out of that environment to say, you know what? Maybe my lifestyle won't look the same, right? We talk sometimes about the idea of the golden handcuffs, right? You know, I had the mortgage and the trappings of, you know, keeping up with the Joneses and all of these things. And I had to really come to terms with myself to say, you know what? These are not the things that I need in my life. What I need is time. What I need is peace. What I need is to slow down. And so I was willing to give up those trappings, recognizing that they'd never made me happy, but they didn't define my worth or my value. And so being willing to let go of those things and trust I will figure it out on the other side, whether that means waiting tables, whether that means taking on multiple side projects, whatever it is. It was really for me about cultivating that self-trust to be able to break free of that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's like that idea. I have a dear mentor, and one of the things that she used to say a lot is leap and the net will appear. And that leap is so scary sometimes. So scary. I remember when I packed up my bag and walked out of that job, I was terrified. And because I had 3 younger kids at home, I had a mortgage. Okay. So talking about the golden handcuffs, I had the mortgage, I had the partridge in a pear tree, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? This is the first time that like I've ever made a big leap like this that I didn't have a plan. And it was terrifying. And then I crossed the threshold of the front door, heading to my car, and I felt like 1,000 pounds came off my shoulders. And I was like, nope, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. It's going to be okay. I don't know how it's going to be okay, but it's going to be okay.
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful. I love that. Yeah, cultivating that self-trust. And I think what's really interesting in that leap and the net will appear metaphor, I love that. I also have what might be like a good news, bad news situation. I don't know. I'll end with the good news, but I think for me, I would say I did, you kind of asked and I jokingly said multiple times I had that moment of like, I can't do this anymore. So I think what has been really interesting as I reflect on my journey is I had multiple moments of jumping off the cliff and hoping that I was going to soar, I was going to fly, that I wouldn't need the net. Made for some rough landings. So I definitely had some rough landings, some bumps, some bruises. I think of the metaphor of just like a kid with like the sheet as a parachute or whatever it is. And, you're jumping off and then you go a little higher and a little higher. And there were a couple of times where, like when I left the corporate environment for the first time, went to work for a friend's startup, and it was a huge risk. I left a lot of money on the table in my corporate job, but I really believed in the vision for the startup. And within 2 months, it was very clear that it was not a good fit and it was not going to work out. So then I spent time, okay, let me go back to finding a job. And I got into corporate consulting, and that had its whole other slew of pros and cons. But it was interesting that I share this because there were times where I took that leap and it didn't necessarily pan out the way that I wanted, the way that I expected it to. I had the bruises, I had the bumps, maybe some light broken bones. But a lot of times I feel that people can create the story of, oh, I shouldn't have leapt because it didn't go the way that I wanted. It didn't go the way I expected, or I'm a little worse for the wear now. And for me, it's not about using that experience to say I shouldn't have leapt. It's, okay, what did I learn so that next time I leap, I can fly a little bit further. I can prevent the same thing from happening because now I have that experience. And so I can learn from it. I'm a little stronger because, maybe I'm developing the calluses or the, rough knees, whatever it is. And so I think that has been really important, is rather than viewing it as, oh, I failed because this didn't go the way I planned. This is life, right? This is all about experiences. It's all about taking those leaps. And now I've learned, I'm stronger. And with those subsequent buildups of leaps, I was able to leap last year into this really beautiful scenario of traveling, having this sabbatical, checking off bucket list items I've wanted to for years, met this divine partner who I'm crazy about, and just relocated to paradise. And so it's like in those subsequent buildups, now I'm learning really what it means to fly.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Well, and one of the things that has come out of all of these bumps along the way is your beautiful Heal Collective project. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, I've been on this journey of contemplative practice, of introspection, of healing for quite a long time. And especially over the last 5 years, I've gone through the dark night of the soul and really peeled back to my core. Who am I? Where do these beliefs about myself come from? I was in a very deep depression for a couple of years, actually. My therapist actually diagnosed me with double depression because go big or go home, right? Turns out I had what's known as dysthymia, which is a low grade functional depression that's usually a result of childhood trauma. And then I had major depression on top of it. And I got to some really dark places, Adrienne. I really wasn't sure I wanted to keep living. I had a friend who had died by suicide a couple years prior, and I saw the impact that her loss had on her family, on her community, and really gave me the strength to say, okay, I'm not going to make that choice because it doesn't end the pain. It just transfers it to the people that I love the most. So, okay, if I'm going to continue moving through this life, what is that going to look like? No one's coming to rescue me. No one's coming to save me. I need to figure out how to do this for myself. So I really clawed my way back from the darkness into the light. And in doing that, what I learned is I really believe every single person needs to walk their unique path, but we don't need to do it alone, right? There are so many similarities in the human experience, in the emotions that we feel, even if our circumstances look really different. And I really want to provide a safe space, right? These containers of safety, of love, of being able to see people in exactly what you're experiencing, and that really created this vision for the Heal Collective. I've got a 4-phase plan. It's a very ambitious plan, but we're in phase 1 right now. And it's really about creating through workshops, through retreats, through just different community events. It's really an opportunity for us to come together to heal in community, to recognize that we're not alone, right? Even though we might feel like we're alone, even though the experience that we're having may be completely unique to the exact fabric of who we are in this lifetime. We also have people who are walking their own path, who have walked through their own fires, who have, died those little deaths to get to where they are. So it's really about coming back to the power of love and the power of community for us to heal together.
Oh, I love that. I mean, in this time where we are more connected than ever through technology, we feel more isolated than ever. So how do your events work? Are they in person? Are they virtual?
Yes, they're both.
You're like D, all of the above.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All of the above. I went through a period of time where maybe I sort of vilified technology, kind of said, oh, this is the reason we feel so isolated. And as I've really shifted my perspective, I see how beautiful technology, it really gives us, it's all a tool, right? It's all in how we use the tool. So do we use it to post, this highlight reel of a life that we're not actually living, but we want to put on just another version of a mask? Or do we use technology as a way to actually bring us together? So offering, virtual workshops, because that allows us to connect with people all over the country or all over the world, even who we maybe never would have met. Some of my deepest, best friends live all over. We're scattered completely across the globe. And thanks to mostly voice notes and FaceTime, we're able to stay connected. We're able to share our journeys with each other. So for me, it's about using technology as an opportunity to bring us together and then to deepen those connections, ideally in person. So a lot of the retreats are in person because it gives us a chance to really immerse, to be together with one another, to get off of our screens, to check out of our routines and our daily habits and rituals, but using technology as a method to kind of create that spark of connection, to bring us together. And so, yes, all of the above.
I love that. I love that. A lot of what I offer too is a hybrid of in person and virtual because, I've had the true honor of being able to serve people all over the world, and technology has made that all possible. Maybe it's the Aquarius in me, but I embrace it for those purposes because it helps us be able to essentially find our tribe.
Exactly.
Now, is this focused for like women's circles, or is this anyone can join?
It's a great question. And yes, to the Aquarius energy, fellow Aquarius here too. So the Heal Collective is really this umbrella for healing where everybody is welcome, right? All genders, all identifications, all colors, all nationalities, everyone is welcome, right? And so whether it's LGBTQ plus, whether it's how you identify racially or culturally. So there are pockets within the Heal Collective, right? Where like my mom is getting involved. And so she may be offering events for people who are more senior in their life, just to have that shared experience, that resonance. But ultimately, it's really about creating collisions for connection because yes, there are opportunities to connect, to expand, to come back to your wild feminine self in more of a female-oriented container. But we live in a world where there are all kinds of people. And so it's really about almost this like stepwise progress of, okay, now I feel safe in this container. How do I graduate from that container, maybe into a mixed container? But I understand that we share the same values and it's still safe. And then how do I graduate from that and go out a little further and a little further into the real world so that ultimately we can expand our own circle of safety with the ideal goal that there's nowhere we could go on earth and not feel safe. That's an ambitious goal, but that's really the idea is rather than creating just these very small safe pockets, it's about how do we challenge ourselves to maybe show up in a mixed community where we didn't used to feel safe. How do we create those disconfirming experiences where maybe, I have had some experiences with men where I didn't feel safe, but it's so healing to do the work of healing that wound in a space with, let's say, women, but even more healing to now go out and to interact with men who are safe. And that can heal the wounds in a deeper and faster way as well. So all inclusive with some of those pockets.
I love that. I love that. So, as an inclusive, safe space, I know this is going to be a little bit of a hot button question, but how do you feel that is being met in the current political climate?
Oh my gosh, such a good question. Oh, okay, here we go. Let's do this. I think what's really interesting is when I reflect, I believe everything is a fractal. What I mean by that is so at the individual level, so too at the collective. So when I look at my own personal journey of transformation and growth, I know and I feel and I see that I didn't grow and transform when things were really comfortable and things were really easy, right? I grow through adversity. I grow through challenge. I grow through building the energy of discomfort in the status quo to where my insides say, this is not sustainable. I cannot allow this to sustain any longer. I must challenge the status quo. So having said that, I think at the collective level, I've been feeling this, quite frankly, since 2016, wondering, okay, when are we going to collectively really wake up? And I think it's happening. I'm seeing these pockets are growing. I'm seeing, so yes, if I turn on the news and the media would have me believe that everything is dire, everything is doomsday, everything is getting worse. And in some cases that may be true, things are getting worse. I certainly don't want to discount the very real pain and discomfort that people are feeling. And if we turn off the news and turn off the media, we go connect with real people in our community. We see grassroots efforts. We see people coming together. We see people checking out of the matrix and the rat race to say, there's got to be a better way to live my life. I'm going to come home to myself. I'm going to live a heart forward life. I'm going to reconnect with the beautiful earth around me. And so I like to think of it a lot like popcorn. The heat is building, the discomfort is building, and people are popping off, right? The consciousness is rising. And I really believe that love is such a powerful frequency. And when I can really embody love, it creates an invitation. It creates that ripple effect for more people to come into that space. And so in the current political climate, I believe that there are some very interesting things happening. That's the most neutral way I can say it, because I think that part of being inclusive is also respecting both sides, right? There are people who are very thrilled about everything that's happening right now, and there are people who are not thrilled about anything that's happening right now. And so I really try to hold the perspective of the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? If I can suspend my judgment and really lean into curiosity rather than thinking this is terrible, this is really bad, or this is really good. I get curious and I say, how might what is happening today be serving my highest good? How might this be serving the collective rising of consciousness? How might this be serving our ultimate return to love? How might this be ending war, maybe short-term pain for long-term gain? So those are the perspectives that I try to hold in today's climate.
And now you see how the Heal Collective plays such a beautiful role in all of that. This is where we have the opportunity to have these kinds of conversations and find safe spaces amidst all kinds of disharmony that's happening around us. And I love what you said about moving forward through the world in a heart-focused way. I think that organizations like yours are critically important as we navigate some of these tough spaces. And so I'm so grateful that you came on the show and talked about this beautiful initiative. So if people are looking to get connected with the Heal Collective, how can they find you and the organization?
Yeah, so the website is healcollective.me. And on Instagram, it's the same handle, healcollective.me. Really, it's all about me into we. So yeah, come connect. Stay tuned, get involved. Would absolutely love It's all about co-creation. So it's not about, me, Carissa, as the person who's organizing and doing all of the things and selling the offers or whatever it is. It's really about co-creating the future together in this new earth. So absolutely would invite everyone to get involved.
I love that. So the information to get in touch with Carissa and her beautiful organization is going to be in the show notes. So if you were to leave our audience with one final thought, what would that be?
It would be an invitation to slow down so you can feel in order to heal.
I love that. I love that. So Carissa has graciously agreed to do a part 2. So make sure that you listen to this episode, share it with anyone you feel it would resonate with, and keep your eyes out. So subscribe so you can, hear the next episode that I do with Carissa. Thank you so, so much for your time, your beautiful insight, and sharing all of your wisdom with our audience today.
Adrienne, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor, a privilege. So grateful for you. Keep shining your light out there. We really need it.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Until next time, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.